actually the discovery of sugar is dated back to 8000 BCE or before Common Era, and it has gone through many advancements and many history up until what we know sugar of today. So next slide. Okay, why is it important for us to firstly understand the history of sugar? Because if we look at the physiological history of a human, we actually evolved on a diet where we do not eat any sugar, or even if we did, it's very trace amount of sugar and with virtually like no refined carbohydrate. So it is interesting for us to know like at what point in the history timeline that we actually start to consume sugar in our diet, because like research have pointed towards like sugar probably entered our diet by accident. So I hope from this part of the presentation, it will give us a clearer picture on why sugar is a huge part of our life. Next slide. Okay, so the first part will be the early days of sugar, starting with the discovery of sugar. So sugar is actually discovered from Southeast Asia, specifically Papua New Guinea. So they find this from like DNA and also plant remnants, and they actually localize it to a lake in Papua New Guinea, where they expected that the local people surrounding the area was consuming consuming the stock of sugarcane, which is in the year of 8000 BCE. So as usual, sugar will start to spread around, because like when local people go to trade, they will bring whatever they have from their place and travel and start to trade with people from abroad. So it was spread normally through trades around the Eastern Pacific and also the Indian Oceans by Austronesian and also Polynesian seafarers by the 1500 BCE. Next slide. Okay, so previously, all those while, actually sugar was transported in the form of stalks or sugarcane stalks, where it is like a big bulk of sugarcane, or either they will also like boil sugarcane in water and they would bring the sweet water to go to trade. But it was not until Gupta dynasty where sugar was successfully crystallized, and due to this crystallization of sugar, it actually opens up more avenues to the sugar industry, because now when sugar was successfully crystallized, it means that sugar can be transported easier in the form of like bags of sugars instead of stalks of sugar canes. Okay, then predominantly at that time, sugar was mainly in the Asian region, specifically India and also China. But because of like European traders and such, they realized that they do not have sugar at their place. So because of trading and such, sugar started to spread through the Middle East and also Europe. And the Persian conquest actually extensively increased the sugar crop plant cultivation in Southern Europe. And also crusaders, when they went to war and they came back from Holy Land, they referred to sugar as sweet salt. And like sugar is such a normal part of our life right now, but during the Middle Age, it was actually considered as an expensive spice and not a condiment like how it is today. So actually sugar was only sold to royalties or people with wealth rather than like common person or laymen or even slaves. Next slide. Okay, so these are just some pictures of the crystallization of sugar, but I think this will be further explained by AFFISA. Next slide. Okay, so because like people start to realize the worthiness of sugar, to say, so they start to look for opportunities to mass produce sugar. So countries like Portuguese and also Spain start to look for land where it was proper to make a mass production of sugarcane. So firstly, it was done at an Atlantic island Madeira in the 15th century by the Spanish actually. And then Portuguese, on the other hand, discovered Brazil being suitable for sugarcane plantation. So initially they were like forcing local people to work at their plantation, and this actually turned into the dark history of mass sugar production. So I would like to quote Imam Al-Ghazali, where he said, "Three habits destroy a man or a woman: greed, envy, and pride." So because of greed, these people start to do inhumane things in order for them to rake up profits through sugar. So next slide. So the dark history of sugar is actually referred to transatlantic slave trade. So because of greed, the food that none of us actually need became something that is a huge part of our life today. So initially, Portugal and Spain forced the local people in the Caribbean to work at the sugar plantations. But during that time, there was actually an outbreak of European diseases, and with the violence that was occurring at the sugar plantation, many of those local people was devastated, or to say that they were actually killed. So these people had to start looking for more workers to work at their sugar plantation. So this led them to look at Africa. So because of at that time in Africa, specifically countries like Togo, Benin, and Nigeria, they were having tribal war amongst themselves. So they would have prisoners or slaves that were captured. So these people like Portugal and Spain started buying these slaves from the tribal from the African tribes. So they start to buy these people and bring them to their plantations. And then because of greed even more, they were like, why should we buy these people in the first place? Why not we just capture them? And that's what they actually did. They just start to invade Africa, the local tribes, and just start taking people and force them to work in their sugar plantation. And even then they were like, oh, this is too much work, I don't want to do this much work. So what they did was they actually hired people to go do that dirty work for them. So these people will just go into these tribes and start capturing people and bring these people onto ships and sail to the sea. So it was easier for sugar plantation owners to just come with a ship and pick up all these slaves that they will bring to their plantation, basically. So that was something that was called as Middle Passage, or basically the passage in the middle, so they don't have to actually go into Africa. Next slide. Okay, so if you look at your top left, the picture of the map, so the transatlantic slave trade is actually involving three movements. So if you look at the green arrow, it is actually the movement of slaves from Africa to the Caribbean or to Brazil, and then those slaves will start to work at the sugar plantation, and the raw materials of sugar will be transported to Europe, where it will be processed and etc. And also manufactured goods from Europe will then be transported to Africa. So it is sort of like a triangle form of trade. So as you can see from those two images of two drawings of slaves, we could really see that these slaves had no rights. Their welfare was not taken care of, and they were forced to do manual labor without any form of payment or compensation. Next slide. Okay, so this actually, the tragic era actually ended 200 years later in 1834, where they were emancipated by the British Empire. So even though this looks like a hero kind of thingy, but it's still not a good story at the end of the day, because British tried to give them compensation, but actually the compensation was not given to the slaves, but rather the slave owners. So in the end, these slaves had to work without any pay or anything, and in the end, even though they were emancipated, their rights were not met, and they were still be treated like a slave. That will be all for my part. Now I would like to invite the next presenter to present their slide.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is AIMAN, and for my part, I will explain about the biochemistry of sugar. Slide. Before that, I want to apologize apologize to you because for my background voice. Before that, we need to know what is the basic biochemistry of sugar. So sugar is a polyalcohol, which one of them oxidizes to aldehyde or ketone. Sugar can be classified according to the number of carbon atoms, such as triose, terose, pentose, and hexose, and also can be classified according to the way atoms are arranged together in the molecular structure. For example, monosaccharide, disaccharide, and polysaccharide. Next slide. Okay, for monosaccharide, it also called as a simple sugar because monosaccharide is a sugar that cannot be hydrolyzed to smaller molecule. There are three sugar of monosaccharide. First, glucose. Glucose is the most abundant sugar in nature. It also the main cause of calories. And then second is fructose. Fructose is the sweetest natural sugar. Some articles says that fructose is approximately 2 times sweeter than sucrose. So fructose is commonly found in honey, fruits, and root vegetables. And then third is galactose. Galactose is usually linked to glucose to produce milk sugar. Next slide. Okay. For the disaccharide, it also called as double sugar, and there are three sugar of disaccharide. First, sucrose. Sucrose is the combination of glucose plus fructose. It also called as table sugar, white sugar, granulate sugar, or simply sugar. It usually found in fruits and vegetables such as sugarcane and sugar beets. Then second is lactose. Lactose is the combination of glucose plus galactose. It is known as the lowest sweetness sugar. It found in milk of mammals such as cow milk and human breast milk. And then third is maltose. Maltose is the combination of glucose plus glucose, and it is abundant in germination seed. It is usually found in molasses and also be produced in the manufacturing of beer. Next slide. Before that. Okay. And last is polysaccharide and oligosaccharide. Polysaccharide are not sweet in taste. For example, is starch. It is usually found in rice, potatoes, wheat, and maize. For oligosaccharide, the example of oligosaccharide is a galacto-oligosaccharide that can be found in soybeans. Next slide. So for what I says, there are some sugars that be produced in plants. So how there are some sugar that is produced in plants, which is fructose, glucose, and sucrose. So how this sugar produced in plant? So there are some steps. In the first step, sunlight shines on the leaf and the light energy is collected by the chlorophyll in the chloroplast. The collected light energy gets converted into chemical energy and can be stored in energy storage molecules. In this process also, oxygen is produced and released by the plants. And then carbon dioxide from the air enter the leaf through the very small opening. Using the previous stored chemical energy, the chloroplast convert carbon dioxide into glucose, and during this step also fructose is produced. Then glucose combined with fructose to create sucrose. Next slide. Okay, so how this sugar that I mentioned, which is glucose, fructose, and sucrose, can be metabolized in the body. So for the glucose, glucose is absorbed directly across the lining of the small intestine into the bloodstream, which is delivers it to the cells. And then it raises blood sugar more quick, and also glucose is raise blood sugar more quickly than other sugar, which is stimulate the release of insulin. Then insulin, and then once the glucose inside the cell, it either used immediately to create energy or turn into glycogen to be stored in the muscle or liver for the future use. So the body tightly controls the blood sugar level. So when they get too low, glycogen is broken down into glucose and released into the blood to be used for energy. If glucose is unavailable, the liver can make this type of sugar from other fuel sources. And then for the fructose, same like glucose, fructose is absorbed directly into your bloodstream from the small intestine. It can raise blood sugar level more gradually than glucose, and it cannot immediately impact insulin level. However, even though fructose doesn't raise your the blood sugar right away, it can give the long-term negative effect. So the liver has to convert fructose into glucose first before the body can use it for energy. So eating large amount of fructose on a high calorie diet can raise blood triglyceride level. So excessive fructose intake can increase the risk of metabolic syndrome and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Next slide. Okay, for the sucrose, since sucrose is a disaccharide, so it should be broken down first before the body can use it. So there are two places that that the sucrose can be broken down. First, in our mouth. Our mouth actually breaks down sucrose into glucose and fructose. However, the majority of sugar digestion occur in small intestine because there is an enzyme sucrase that is enzyme sucrase in our small intestine that can split sucrose into glucose and fructose. And then they are after sucrose is broken down into glucose and fructose, they will absorb into the bloodstream. Then the presence of glucose increase the amount of fructose that is absorbed and also stimulate the release of insulin. This means that more fructose is used to create fat compared to when this type of sugar is eaten separately. Therefore, eating fructose and glucose together can harm our health more than eating them separately. So I think that's all from my part. I will pass to the next presenter.
Thank you, Brother IZZUL, for the interesting biochemical of sugar. Assalamualaikum, doctors and everyone. My name is NURUL AFFISA EMALIN binti Muhammad ROSHANAFFI, and my metric number is 2016482. So I will continue the seminar with the third part, which is sugar in food industry. Next. So, I would like to share with you about sugar evolution. So, what actually happened after the mass production in 15th century? So, after 15th century, all countries try to follow this. They start sugar production and sugar being industrialized. So, before that time, sugar is expensive and only limited to rich rich people. So because of the industrialization, so the sugar becomes cheaper and everyone can get sugar even though we are just normal people. Okay, so for sugar evolution, it is actually started long time ago. Uh, with these three factors. First, our ancestors started to become producer. They start to plant this source of sugar and secure this food supply. Second, in 1840s, there was industrialization of food supply, meaning that they process this food in order to make it easier for us to eat and to preserve the food. And there were arrival and public accessibility of automobile. But this one started before century, 3500 before century. So these three factors are involved in sugar evolution or any other type of food. And for your information, first fast food first fast food actually introduced in Britain in 1860s. The first fast food is fish and chip. And the drive-through restaurant is introduced in US in 1950s. And in Malaysia, the first fast food restaurant is A&W. And it was established on 1963. And our favorite restaurant, McDonald's, actually established on 1982 at Jalan Bukit Bintang. Okay, so after this sugar evolution and time by time, okay, in 1930, it is recorded that the majority moms are working that time. Until now, they want to support their family finance. So with this fast food company, they are promoting this variety, easy, cheap, delicious fast food. So this make the busy parent, busy mom tend to give their family this fast food, although it is high in sugar and high in salt. So in this, we form the sugar addiction generation, starting from that time. And even though if the pregnant mother is sugar addict, it can be passed through to her fetus. The gene can pass through genetic. So this lead to sugar addict generation. Right now, we are sugar addict generation. We cannot live without sugar. Every day we eat sugar. And increase in snacking, even though we are already full with other type of food, but actually there are so many snacks, chips, nuts, so we want to eat and eat and eat. And we also develop unhealthy diet, and we practice sedentary lifestyle, and it is also a trend for us to eat this fast food and sugary drinks, and it is assumed to be outdated if we don't follow this. So next. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, fast food company is making this fast food. So the most favorite fast food restaurant in Malaysia is McDonald's, KFC. So as you can see in this picture, 1+1, 1 day special, limited time only. So this is the agenda of this fast food company to trick us to buy this fast food. So for example, I give in my condition, okay. This is not in Ramadan, okay. So I go to the McDonald's and I want to buy chicken burger. But when I look at the poster, Max Savers mix and match, 1 plus 1, I can get RM 6 ringgit. So of course, I will buy another one from the white side, like Coke. So I will buy the chicken burger and Coke. Actually, I just want to eat burger, but when I look at this promotion, I tend to buy more. As Brother Danish said just now. Okay, I'm sorry. So, sugar is what we need. It's not what we need, but we crave for it. Okay, so when you see another poster here, 1 day special, limited time only. So we are like forced to buy them today because we think that we cannot get this promotion again tomorrow. And these 3 words is always used by these fast food companies: easy, fast, and cheap. So when the tired, busy people, they don't have the time to cook. So this is the trick for us to buy this fast food. Next. Okay, so when you see here, Tea Life, Starbucks, favorites of everyone, and it is the same too. They use this type of words to trick us to buy. Okay, for example, I just want to buy 1 Tea Life, but when I see get RM3 cashback, when you spend minimum RM 10 ringgit, so I want to get the cashback, so I will buy 2 at least to get this cashback. So this make us to buy more than what we need. Okay, next. Okay, so in this slide, okay, there are pictures here. Okay, when you see this, you will think that, oh, it is very good because this food company produce no sugar Coca-Cola, 0 sugar juice, 30% less sugar chocolate. But actually, this also like a trick for us because when it says no sugar, 0 sugar, less sugar, actually, it is not meaning that the product have no sugar at all. It still have sugar, the natural sugar, the sugar alcohol. So when we see this thing, we tend to consume more than the normal food product. Okay, so next. Okay, so if you see the statistic here, this is the statistic of total sugar consumption worldwide from 2009 until 2020, and they expect in 2031. So as you can see in the pattern here, the increased pattern. Okay, so this justify why the number of diabetic and obesity people in worldwide increase year by year. Next. So we eat sugar daily. I'm sorry to put this picture because during Ramadan. So we eat sugar daily in pavlova, boba drinks, in the main dishes. We put sugar to donuts, scones. So actually, do we know the type of sugar? Okay, so I will share with you the type of sugar. Next. Okay, so the first one is white sugar. White sugar is the common sugar that we always use in cooking. Next one is brown sugar. We also use it in cooking too. And there are there are process how to make brown sugar, and I will explain it later. Next is castor sugar. So castor sugar is used in baking, and actually it is a it is a fine powdered form of the white sugar. And next one is icing sugar, also used in baking, making icing, fondant. So it is a fine powdered sugar, but it is added with cornstarch. Okay, next is golden syrup. It is made from molasses of the sugar, and I will explain it later too. And black sugar. Okay, the yellow circle here is actually made from sugar cane and sugar beet. Okay. Next one is gula melaka or palm sugar. It is made from palm tree. And the last one is corn glucose maple syrup. Okay, so for corn is made from corn, glucose made from wheat and potatoes, and maple is from maple tree. So next. Okay, so I will share with you on how sugar is produced. I will explain based on these three phases. First is the production phase, where I will explain the sources of sugar and the plantation. And the second one is processing, how the source become the refined sugar that we use now. And the last one in marketing, I will explain to you what is the role of sugar in food. Okay, next. So for sugar production, there are a lot of source of sugar. So I only put 6 here. So the first one is sugarcane. Sugarcane contributed 80% of sugar, about 80% sugar worldwide. Next one is sugar beet. Sugar beet, there is also the purple color sugar beet, and it contribute 20% of sugar worldwide. Next one is corn. Corn can produce corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, honey, because yes, everyone know honey made by bee, Apis mellifera. Next is maple syrup, maple syrup produced from maple tree. And next is palm tree, can produce palm sugar. And there are other sources too, like fruit, plant. Okay, so next. Okay, so I want to explain about these two important sugarcane and sugar beet. First is sugarcane. So sugarcane high in sucrose, just like Brother IZZUL mentioned, sucrose consisted of glucose and fructose. And the time of growing sugarcane is 7 months to 1 year. And it can be grown in tropical climates. The country that grow sugarcane is South America, India, Southeast Asia, New Guinea. Okay, and then the largest producer of sugarcane is actually Brazil. Brazil produced 746.8 million of ton sugarcane. In Malaysia, we also plant sugarcane, but it is very little compared to this country. We plant sugarcane in Perlis, Kedah, because they need the hot weather. So 70% of sugar worldwide come from this species, Saccharum officinarum, and its hybrids. And the sugar is stored in the stem and stalks of sugarcane. Okay, next. So this is Saccharum officinarum, and this is the plantation in Brazil. Next. Okay, this is sugar beet. Okay, as Dr. Rosina said to us, sugar beet can increase our IQ. Okay, so the scientific name is Beta vulgaris, and the time of growing is 1 year. It have high concentration of sucrose in its fruit, and it is different from sugarcane because it grows best in cooler climate. The country that grow sugar beet is Russia, France, US, and Germany. And the largest producer of sugar beet is Russia. Russia produce 42 million of ton sugar beet, and the sucrose is stored in the root. Okay, next. This is the plantation of sugar beet in Russia. Okay, next. Okay, for sugar processing, it is started with the production. So after we produce the plant and we harvest them, so it will be sent to the manufacturer. Okay, so in producing for sugarcane and sugar beet, so there is this process. From source will be converted to raw sugar and will be converted to refined sugar. Okay, and then after we pack them, they will be marketing process. They will be marketed to wholesaler, retailer, and to consumer. Okay, next. Okay, so I will explain to you briefly about raw sugar process. Okay, so after we get the sugarcane or sugar beet from the mill, they will be crushed into small pieces. So first, the juice, the sugar will be extracted in hot water in 70 degrees Celsius, and then they will undergo this important process, which is desiccation process, where we add lime and heat. So in this process, the lime will form like a complex of impurities the substance that we don't want, because in sugar there are also the substance that we don't want. Okay. So it is important to remove all the impurities. And then after that it will be heated, and after being heated actually it will form two layers, the top layer and the bottom layer. Top layer is the clear juice and the bottom is the mud layer. So for the mud layer, it will be extracted again and undergo purification process again. So the clear juice will be evaporated to increase the sugar concentration. So after that, the raw juice will be called as syrup. Okay. After that, syrup will undergo crystallization. In this, we form the sugar crystal. But in this process, the sugar actually in brown color because they are coated with molasses. Molasses is the raw juice of the sugar cane and sugar beet. Okay, after that, they will further undergo centrifugal. So as we all know, centrifugal, they will be rotating, and so to separate the sugar crystal from its molasses. So we can get raw sugar. So its molasses will undergo the process again. Next. Okay, so these are the specification of raw sugar that the factory must follow in making them. Next. Okay, this is how we get refined sugar from the raw sugar. So first, the raw sugar will be melted. So in melted clarification, there are also separating the low density sugar and the scum. So the scum will undergo melting process again. Okay, after that they are being filtrated, and after filtrated we get the filtrated raw sugar. So they will further decolorize to remove all maximum color of the sugar. We want the white color only. And then they will undergo crystallization to form the sugar crystal and centrifugal to separate them from their molasses. And during this process, decolorization happen in every process to remove maximum color of the sugar. Okay, so the refined sugar here is actually the white sugar. Okay, if you want to get the brown sugar, actually the refined sugar will be combined with the molasses to get this brown sugar. For castor sugar, it is powdered finer because they make it finer. And then for icing sugar, they add cornstarch. For golden syrup, it's actually from the molasses, but it is less sweet because less sugar extraction and more volume of water. And the last one is black sugar. Black sugar is actually the raw sugar. The raw sugar. Okay. Next. These are the specification that need to be followed to produce this refined sugar. Next. Okay, so I want to explain briefly about palm sugar, gula Melaka, that we always use in cooking in Malaysia. So other name for gula Melaka is gula merah, gula kabong, and for Kelantan, in Kelantan we call it as niseh. And actually it is from the sap present in the flower buds of the coconut palm tree. Sap is actually nira or tuak. And the tree that we can get it from is pokok kabong, nipah, pokok tah. And gula Melaka is actually natural sugar, minimum processing and no chemical compared to the refined sugar. And how is the process? Sap from the tree is heated to wick away the moisture content until a thick syrup obtained. Further, the thick syrup is further reduced to crystal according to what we want to produce them. Okay. Gula Melaka present in block, granular and liquid form, and it is used in Asian and African cuisine and dessert. Okay, what is the advantages of gula Melaka compared to the white sugar, brown sugar? So the glucose is less reduced glucose and lower glycemic index. This is important. Okay, and it can also stabilize blood sugar level compared to the white sugar. And it also have inulin, which is important for our bacteria in gut, and mangan to prevent osteoporosis. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the last part of my part. is sugar marketing, role of sugar in food. So first is sweetener, second is color. Sugar also is important in food preservation. Fourth, sugar give texture, volume, moisture. And fifth, sugar is important in making alcoholic beverages. Okay, next. Okay, I hope you all not feel hungry looking at this picture. So sugar is function as sweeteners. Okay, so as you see in sambal ayam, sambal belacan, actually we add sugar to reduce the spiciness and to make it more delicious. And then you can see burnt cheesecake. We use sugar in baking too. We use icing sugar, caster sugar. And sugar syrup we use in making icing, fondant, coffee, drinks, and making biscuit raya later if you make biscuit raya. And we also add sugar in tomato sauce, mayonnaise to reduce its acidity, and in medical syrup to reduce its alkalinity. Okay, next. Sugar give colour to food too. Alamak. Okay, can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, so sugar give colour to food too by these two reaction. Okay, when you see at the curry puff, fried donut, so you can see the brownish colour. What actually happened? This is because Maillard reaction, the reaction between reducing sugars and amino acid. They will produce browning of food and distinctive flavour of food. Next is caramelization. Okay, this is a pudding caramel. I bet the sister will cook this at home. Okay, so caramelization is browning of sugar. It will give sweet nutty flavour and brown colour to the sugar. So it involves three group of sugar polymers, caramelans, and caramelins. Next. So in food preservation, so in Malaysia we have so many jeruk pickle. So there we can make fruit, vegetable as pickle. So we have jeruk Pak Ali. So there are many type of jeruk pickle and vegetable. Why sugar is important in food preservation? Because sugar solution create hypertonic solution. So it increase osmotic pressure in fruit, so the water will come out from the fruit. So it will retard the bacterial growth in fruit. So it will preserve the food or vegetable. And actually sugar also form shell of hydration with water. And if you see at the semperit, okay, the cherry, actually the cherry is stored in sugar solution to preserve the cherry, and we put it on semperit. Okay, next. Okay, sugar also give texture, volume and moisture to our food. It not only give sweet taste to our food, but it also give texture, volume, moisture. Okay, so it give volume to cake and biscuit. And if we add sugar in pectin, it will give jelly texture, important in jams and jelly. So moisture, because sugar is humectant, can form shell of hydration, so it can keep the moisture in food. Next, sugar is important in making alcoholic beverages because, as we all know, fermentation alcohol by yeast. So glucose will be converted to ethanol and carbon dioxide and energy. So this fruit will be kept in the sugar solution. And fermented to become this alcohol. So for wine, usually they are formed from grape, beer from grains like barley, rice, oat, whiskey from grains, meat from honey, and ciders from apple. Okay, that's all from my part. Okay, but we will continue with the quiz, spin the wheel. So actually we collected some names. So we will spin the wheel and we will see who are the lucky ones. Okay. So the first one is Hakim Yusli. Okay, are you here, Hakim?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Okay,
Hear
so
me?
let's see. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question. Where was sugar first discovered? This is mentioned in the Brother Danish.
This is very difficult. Is it Papua New Guinea? Papua New Guinea?
Yes. Yes, true. Very good. Okay. Okay, yes, true. Okay, so we will go to the second person. There are 3 questions. Okay. Congratulations, Christina Shahira. Okay. Are you here, Christina Shahira?
Yes.
Okay, so for the second question, where is fructose converted to glucose in our body? It is an organ.
Liver.
Okay, liver. True. Amazing. Okay, for the last question. No. Okay. So Nadia Yasmin. Are you here, Nadia?
Yes.
Okay. So for the last question. Okay, this is in my part. What is the reaction that can cause browning of food from the reaction of amino acid and reducing sugars? You can see at the break. Okay, what reaction?
I think it's Maillard reaction.
Yes, true. Very good. Okay. Congratulations to all. And I will continue the seminar. We will continue the seminar with the fourth part by NABILA.
Thank you to Sister AFFISA. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURUL NABILA binti Abu Seman with magic number 2016842, and I will be presenting about the medical input that you can take from this seminar. Okay, before I start presenting about the some of the medical input, I would like to ask you guys a warm-up quiz. So the quiz is, what do the Atkins diet and Japanese diet have in common? Atkins diet is actually we can call it as ketogenic diet. So anyone have any ideas on this quiz? Want to try?
I think it's for them to lose weight.
To lose weight? Okay, who are you?
My name is Nadia.
Okay, good try. And yes, these are two diet. These two types of diet is actually a way that we can use to losing weight. So as you can see here, the left one is the Atkins diet, and the right one is the Japanese diet. So Atkins diet or ketogenic diet is actually a diet of all fats with no carbs or low carbohydrates. And for the Japanese diet, it is actually full of carbs or all carbohydrates with no fat or low fat. So what does they have in common? So actually, they have in common is they both eliminate the fructose. Why does they need to eliminate the fructose although they still eat carbohydrate, right? So because when we eat carbohydrate, we know that when we eat carbohydrate, the carbohydrate will break down into glucose in our body. So glucose can be metabolized by all of our body tissues, but not with fructose. Fructose can only be metabolized by the liver in any significant amount. As we know, all types of diet, for example, the Atkins diet, as I mentioned before, Japanese diet, vegan diet, Dukan diet, each of these diet does not encourage or more accurately restrain us from drinking soft drinks. Why? Why does they restrain us from drinking soft drinks? Because in soft drinks or in other sweets, they contain fructose. So what is the role of fructose in the soft drink and sweets? The fructose serve as to reward the sweet taste that provide calories. As been mentioned by Brother IZZUL, it said that fructose is the most sweetest sugar among all the type of sugar. And if we compare fructose and other carbohydrate types of food, for example, the noodles, rice or bread, although we take same calories of fructose and also the carbohydrate types of food, fructose has far more negative effects on the hormones, appetite and metabolic health. This has been proved in the American Journal. Intake of soft drinks containing high fructose corn syrup or HFCS or sucrose has risen in parallel with the epidemic of obesity. And furthermore, in 2006, they have a research. The implication of dietary intake high in fructose is one of the potential risks for cardiovascular disease. So without further ado, I would like to continue to reveal the bitter truth of the sugar. So when we take an excess intake of sugar, we can lead to a gain weight, or in a worsened case, it can lead to obesity. And the second one, excess intake of sugar can increase the risk of heart disease. And the third one is diabetes. And the fourth one is skin problem. Okay, for the first one, weight gain. Before I explain how does the sugar can increase the risk of weight gain, I would like to introduce to you guys with our two unsung heroes. They regulate our control of food intake, which is the leptin and also ghrelin. So leptin, it is responsible to lower our appetite, while ghrelin, as you can see in its name, it starts with gr. Okay, it is a sound of an empty stomach that we have now because we are fasting. So it grows the appetite, meaning that it signals the brains to give to say that we are hungry, so please eat. So why does we need to remember the task of these little chemical messengers? Because it is important, because our body need to obey their commands. Leptin is actually produced by the adipose tissue, and ghrelin is produced when the stomach is empty. Okay, how does increased intake of sugar can disturb the leptin and ghrelin? If we consume a large number of fructose, the consumption of fructose increases your hunger and desire for food more than glucose, the main type of sugar found in the starchy fruits. Excessive fructose consumption may cause a resistance to leptin. We cannot lower our appetite and increase the production of ghrelin. So in other words, this will result in inability to distinguish whether it is a real hunger or it is a perceived hunger. Our brain cannot distinguish whether it is a real or a false hunger. So meaning that if we take a sugary beverage, it do not curb your hunger, but it making it easy to quickly consume a high number of liquid calories. So this will lead to a weight gain. So as you can see, in the fast food franchise, they have a set meals, right? So when they have a set meal, it will come with soft drinks. So why does all of these soft drinks come with, all of these franchise come with soft drinks? Because soft drinks contain fructose, thus this will cause a resistance to leptin hormone that tell you to stop eating. Thus you will buy a bigger size of meal, and because you said that if you buy a small size of set meal, we cannot satisfy our hunger, right? So because of these soft drinks, it makes us become very hungry and do not know how we want when we want to stop eating. So the next one is increased risk of cardiovascular disease or heart disease. High sugar diets have been associated with an increased risk of many diseases, including heart disease, which is the #1 causes of death worldwide. Evidence from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests that high sugar diets can lead to obesity, inflammation, and high triglyceride, blood sugar, and blood pressure levels. This is all the risk factor for the heart disease. And consuming too much sugar, for example, the sugar sweetened drinks, has been linked to atherosclerosis. What is atherosclerosis? It is a deposition of fibrofatty plaque that occupy the innermost layer of the blood vessels, hence narrowing its caliber. This will increase the risk of hypertension, diabetes, and hyperlipidemia. A report from the Nurses Health Study, NHS, which includes only women, showed an increased risk of coronary heart disease, CHD, with greater consumption of sugar-sweetened beverage, and particularly soft drinks. I would like to share with you guys one of the conspiracy that I have found during my reading. This has been explained further by Professor Robert Lustig in the seminar for medical students with a title, Sugar the Bitter Truth. He called it as a Coca-Cola conspiracy. Coca-Cola conspiracy influenced our drink. Why? As you can see in my hand, this is a Pepsi can that I got from KFC as I buy it online. So, what do you know? What is in the Coca-Cola drinks and other soft drinks? Anyone want to answer? Just try. Okay, if you don't know, there is a 55 milligrams of sodium contained in 1 can of Coca-Cola or in other soft drinks. But however, this Pepsi drinks is a less sugar drink. So, 55 milligrams of sodium in Coca-Cola can is like drinking a pizza. So why does the Coke has so many sugar in it? Because it want to hide the salt, hide the salty taste. So if the soft drinks company sells the drinks without adding the sugar, would you buy or drink the Coca-Cola drinks or the Pepsi? No, because it will taste like a soy sauce, except because of the sugar plays a trick on your tongue. So that is why there is so many disease could be associated when you drink the soft drinks. Okay. Next one is excess intake of sugar can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. The worldwide prevalence of diabetes has more than doubled over the past 30 years. Though there are many reasons for this, there is a clear link between excessive sugar consumption and the diabetes risk. A cohort analysis conducted by the Nurses Health Study women consuming 1 or more sugar-sweetened drinks per day had a relative risk of type 2 diabetes of 1.83, and compared with those who consume less than 1 of these beverages per month. Similarly, consumption of fruit punch was associated with increased diabetes risk, meaning that if you drink a fruit juice, it also can associated with increased diabetes risk if you make a juice with added sugar. So prolonged high sugar consumption drive resistance to insulin. As you can see there, if we take bad carbs or an excess intake of sugar, it can resist the insulin. So insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas that regulates the blood sugar levels. So insulin resistance causes blood sugar levels to rise and strongly increases your risk of diabetes. The studies also have shown that people who drink sugar-sweetened beverages, including fruit juice, are more likely to develop diabetes. And the last one, the last bitter truth of sugar, excess intake of sugar has been linked to acne. As you can see, this is the types of acne that can occur in ourselves. if we take an excessive intake of sugar. A diet high in refined carbs, including sugary foods and drinks, has been associated with a higher risk of developing acne. Food with a high glycemic index, such as processed sweets, raise your blood sugar more rapidly than foods with a lower glycemic index. In addition, as you can see in the highlight there, foods with significant sugar content and other carbohydrates yielding high glycemic loads affect serum insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1 levels, both of which promote increased production of available androgens and the subsequent development of acne. The aim of this study was to determine the acne prevalence in adolescents in the city of Eskişehir, located in the central Anatolia, which is in Turkey, in addition to evaluate factors affecting acne and its relationship with dietary habits. For example, in the studies, they have 2,300 teens demonstrates that those who frequently consume added sugar had a 30% greater risk of developing acne. In summary, high sugar diets can increase the androgen secretion, oil production, and inflammation, of all of which can raise your risk of developing acne. As although I took the researchers, the studies that from overseas, but there is also a proof that according to World Population Review 2019, Malaysia has the highest prevalence of obesity among adults in Southeast Asia with 15.6%, followed by Brunei 14.1%, Thailand 10.0%, and to 9.6%. Malaysia has the highest prevalence of obesity because of the dietary with high sugar intakes and the sedentary, most of the sedentary lifestyle. Next, I have prepared an insightful videos for you to understand how does the sugars can be associated with all of the stated diseases.
It's interesting. When we design our studies, we provide diets that are high in starch, and then we take away that starch and replace it with sugar. Why do we even see such unfavorable effects when we replace pasta, or let's say bread, with a fructose sweetened beverage, or let's even say a high fructose corn syrup sweetened beverage? Well, to answer that question, we're going to start first with the glucose. All the grains that we eat and we call carbs are pretty much pure glucose. And it goes into our bloodstream slowly because it takes a while for those enzymes in the intestine to break it all down. The glucose leaves the intestine in what we call the portal vein, and that vein's first stop is the liver. If the liver needs energy, that liver is going to pull the glucose in. If the liver has enough energy, most of the glucose bypasses the liver and is delivered to the rest of the body. It gets to be used by any other place in the body that needs glucose. Now with fructose, it's different. We're talking about fructose in the fructose sweetened beverages are subjects consumed, but we're also talking about the fructose in sodas because high fructose corn syrup contains fructose. So fructose is in the intestine and it too is delivered directly to the liver. However, there's an enzyme there that's always turned on. So it takes any fructose it can get its hands on, even if the liver has enough energy. Very little fructose gets delivered to the rest of the body. So what we end up is this fructose overload in the liver. It needs to start storing it as fat. When you increase your levels of liver fat, you're going to have more fat heading out into the blood. With more fat heading out in the blood, you end up with higher levels of triglyceride and cholesterol. Both of them risk factors for cardiovascular disease. There's another problem. We believe liver fat decreases insulin's ability to do its job. That increases our risk of diabetes. There's another problem. When your insulin isn't working well, it also causes more fructose to be turned into fat. And it also is going to increase the amount of fat that liver sends into the blood. There's another problem. This group that consumed fructose tended to gain that weight within the abdominal cavity. This is what we call visceral fat that makes us apple-shaped. So what we have is this vicious cycle going on. That's really why metabolic syndrome tends to be a group of problems. They make this little vicious cycle where one makes the other worse, and they just go around in this circle. But what we all need to do is get to the point where sugar is a special occasion food. It's not a staple. And that's where we need to think about our foods and what they can be doing to our health.
Are you wondering how much sugar you're eating?
Okay, next. You must want to know how to reduce our sugar daily intakes, right? So, as we all know, excessive added sugar has many negative health effects. Although consuming a small amount now and then, it is perfectly healthy. You should try to cut back on sugar whenever possible. Fortunately, simply focusing on eating whole, unprocessed foods automatically decreases the amount of sugar in your diet. Here are some tips on how to reduce your intake of added sugar is to cut on your sugar-filled drinks. Some popular drinks contain a heap of added sugar, such as soda, energy drinks, sport drinks, and fruit drinks, contribute an astounding record of 44% of the added sugar in the American diet. So-called healthy drinks such as smoothies or fruit juices can also contain an eye-watering amount of sugar. Our body does not recognize calories from drinks in the same way it does from fruit, as been stated in the video. Drinks do not make you feel as full, so people who consume many calories from drinks do not eat less to compensate. There is a recently published meta-analysis by the WHO in 2007, where there is a sufficient scientific evidence that decreasing sugar-sweetened beverage consumption will reduce the prevalence of obesity and obesity-related diseases, whereas increased sugar intake lead to a comparable weight increase. And the second tips of how to reduce your sugar intake, please take enough sleep, whether it is 5 hours a day. And this study has been done in year 2000 titled The Sleep-Deprived Human Brain. The researchers has looked into this phenomenon in the 23 healthy adults. Their brain was scanned using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, first after a full night's sleep, and the second one is a sleepless night. Researchers found that function of the frontal lobe, the part of the brain that controls decision making, was impaired after a sleepless night. Furthermore, the area of the brain that responds to rewards and controls motivation and desire was stimulated, meaning that when we don't have enough sleep, the changes mean that the participant favored a high-calorie, sweet and salty foods when they were sleep deprived. When we don't have enough sleep, we will reward ourselves with favorite high-calorie, sweet and salty foods. Another finding on NHANES data in the United States showed that people who went to bed late and did not get a full night's sleep consume more calories, junk food and soda, and fewer fruits and vegetables compared to those who went to bed early and got a full night's sleep. So going to bed early and sleep well may help you to reduce your sugar intake. That's all from my part. I will invite our last presenter, Sister Ardani.
Thank you, Sister NABILA, for discovering the bitter truth of sugar with us. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to fellow batchmate and honorable doctors. So, my name is NURUL ARDANI binti Muhammad Nur with metric number 2010858, and I'll proceed our seminar presentation for today for Islam input. So I believe everyone's already started to feel so hungry, especially after being triggered with such scrumptious food illustration just now. So in my part, there's only 5 slides, so I'll try to keep it short and brief, inshallah. So before we proceed, I would like to share an analogy shared by one of our IIM lecturers, Dr. Ridwan Wahab. He said that most of us often heard that we are actually the one who's in charge, in control of our body system. But let's say, for example, our immune system, they decide to shut themselves down for even a day, then most likely it will result us ending up lying in a bed, at a hospital bed, or maybe worse, in a coffin, right? So to say that we are actually the one who's in charge in our body system is not completely true, but instead it is actually our body who's in control of ourselves. But back to the question, if our body who's in control of us, then who's in control of our body system? So of course it is our creator, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the one who created us, the one who created everything. And just like every creation that comes with a manual, you buy a refrigerator, you got a manual, you buy a television, you got a manual. Allah created us, and Allah gave us a manual on how to take care of ourselves. Allah gave us the Quran, and through his messenger, the Prophet Muhammad SAW, his sunnah. So proceed to the next slide. The first out of 5 slides. So okay. So allow me to start my first point with Surah Taha, verses 81. According to the translation by Sahih International, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, eat from the good things which we have provided you, and do not transgress or oppress others, wherein lest my anger should descend upon you, and he upon whom my anger. From this surah, it is actually to highlight that everything Allah gave us to eat, and in our topic for today, which is sugar, it is very good and beneficial for our health. We need them to provide us energy. But the point is that once we overconsume anything, once we overconsume sugar, we actually are doing harm to ourselves. We are bringing damage to ourselves. And in our religion, it is prohibited for us to do that. It is prohibited for us to not take care of ourselves, for us to bring harm to ourselves. So next slide. We'll try to go very quickly because there are already 3:33. Okay, so as a medical student, we wanted to be a doctor, right? But as a Muslim, we don't want to be just a mere doctor. We wanted to be a Muslim doctor. And just like how Prof Arif has aspired us to be a safe doctor, we need to have that aim in our mind that we wanted to be a safe Muslim doctor. By how? By one of the way we can apply the concept of maqasid Sharia in every action that we wanted to pursue. So maqasid Sharia is the objective of Sharia. And what is the objective of Sharia? Is to preserve these 5 fundamental elements in our life. So the first one is to preserve our religion. Sorry. The second one is to preserve our life. The third one is to preserve our intellect. The fourth one is to preserve our ancestry. And the last one is to preserve property and wealth. So back to our topic for sugar. Is sugar a white poison? Let us focus on these 3 fundamental elements out of these 5. So my first point to preserve our life. In preserving our life, we shouldn't do anything that most of us probably know that might shorten our lifespan. So just like how Sister NABILA has shared with us just now, the bitter truth of sugar, the complication that one might gain once overconsuming the sugar. So we should never overconsume sugar in order to preserve our life. And the second one is to preserve our intellect. All right. So as we all know, a healthy mind comes from a healthy body. Therefore, to have a healthy mind, we need to have a healthy body in the first place. And in order to preserve our health, we go back to my first point, how to preserve our life, to never overconsume the sugar in our daily intake. So, and the last one is to preserve our ancestry. All right, so for this one, let us go straight to the example. So one of the health complications that Sister NABILA has shared with us just now is that one might have the risk of having the diabetes, right? The diabetes, and we know that diabetes type 2 is a genetic disease that one can pass it down to her offspring. And as a Muslim, sorry. Okay, all right. So, sorry, Aiman. So, as a Muslim, that wanted to continue our beloved Prophet Muhammad SAW legacy, we wanted to produce healthy and strong offspring. We wanted to produce strong and healthy offspring so that they can serve the ummah better. They can contribute more than having to gain any health complications such as diabetes type 2. So that's for Maqasid Syariah. Next slide. So based on my previous point, that is how we can actually try to be a safe Muslim doctor by applying the concept of Maqasid Syariah in everything that we do. All right, so the second verse that I would like to share is from a hadith Tirmizi 2380. So Miqdam bin Ma'di Karib said, I heard the messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, the human does not fill any container that is worse than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to eat what will support his back. If this is not possible, then a third for food, a third for drink, and a third for his breath. Alright, so what insight can we gain from this beautiful hadith is that as Prophet Muhammad SAW says that the human does not fill any container that is worse than his stomach. So we need to actually be really careful. We need to be really strictful in what has been entered into our body. What are we consuming every day? What are we taking into our diets and such? So in our topic for today is for sugar intake, right? So instead of having to consume sugar, or specifically white sugar, is there any other alternative that might bring more benefit than consuming sugar, right? So next slide. All right, so this is actually okay. So for alternative, I provided two examples. So for the first one is honey, and honey is based on the Surah An-Nahl verses 68 to 69. According to the translation of Sahih International, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said, and your Lord inspired to the bee, take for yourself among the mountains, houses, and among the trees, and in that which they construct. Then eat from all the fruits and follow the ways of your Lord laid down for you. There emerges from their bellies a drink, varying in colors, in which there is a healing for people. Indeed, in that is a sign for people who give thought. Alright, so let's think about honey, right? Honey, it is like a magic catalyst that Allah has given to us as a blessing. It works literally for any general condition, as a cure, as a medication. Whenever we have stomach ache, gastritis, then we consume honey to heal our pain. And also for an additional info, in World War I, based on history, honey is also used to heal the injured soldiers in World War I. Alright, so for the second alternative, okay. For the second alternative, which is date palm. So based on Surah An-Nahl also, verses 11, according to the translation from Sahih International, sorry, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said, He causes to grow for you thereby the crops, or lives, or leaf, palm trees, grapevines, and from all the fruits. Indeed, in that is a sign for a people who give thought. Alright, so especially in bulan Ramadan right now, right, we consume date to sahur and to iftar. So for fact, date is not only sweet and one of the best known nutritionist diet for mankind. So they contain more than 60% of inbred sugar, vitamins, and minerals. And just like honey, they are also reputed for their great medicinal value. They can work as demulcents, emollients, a heart stimulant, and help in checking the loss of memory. So with that, by eating dates for our health, not only with that, let's try to consume date not only in this Ramadan month, but also in our daily life, even after the Ramadan ends, to gain barakah from Allah. So I believe that would be all for my Islam input. All right, so next slide. All right, allow me to sum up our discussion before we proceed with the next session. So at the beginning, our brother Danish brother Danish IRFAN has shared with us the history of sugar, and brother AIMAN IZZUL has shared with us the biochemistry of sugar, the polysaccharides, and Sister AFFISA EMALIN has shared with us the sugar in food industry, how sugar has been produced, how sugar has been processed, and how sugar has been marketed. And previously before me was Sister NABILA has shared with us the medical input, the sweet danger of sugar, and lastly for my part, Islam input. I've shared with you guys how do we view the daily sugar consumption from Islamic perspective. All right, so that's for summary. Now we go to the conclusion. Next slide. All right, so based on all the shared point and insights that me and my fellow teammates have shared with you guys, surely there are pros and cons in consuming sugar, right? So it is important to say that in our life, we do need sugar to provide us energy, for us to perform daily activities, for us to perform ibadah. But it is also important to highlight that having too much sugar in our intakes, in our diet intakes, affect our health badly. And scientifically, we know that excess intake of sugar may lead to the increase of the G6P, and G6P is primarily the one who's responsible for the change in muscle protein of our heart. So because of that, it might lead to heart failure, right? As what we have been learned in our previous lecture. So so as everything that goes and exceeds beyond the bounds of moderation will surely have an unstable foundation. So back to our question, is sugar a white poison? So the answer would be yes, if and only if the sugar was being consumed more than we need, more than the moderation, which we don't apply the concept of wasatiyah in our life, and we overconsume it because based on our desires more than our needs. So and that will be all for the summary and for the conclusion. For the next part, which is Q&A session, I shall pass to my my teammate, Sister NABILA. Thank you.
Okay, so we will proceed with the Q&A session. We have distribute a Google form for our friends to ask some question about this seminar. So we have 5 questions, and the first one, the question asks, do brown sugars have the same bad effects as white sugar? So this will be answered by Sister AFFISA.
Okay, for the first question, do brown sugars have same bad effect as white sugar? So next. Next slide. Okay, my answer would be yes, because actually brown sugar and white sugar is not don't have any significant difference, because okay, brown sugar have slightly reduced calorie compared to white sugar and a little bit mineral, but actually the mineral in brown sugar is not significant. That's why people people said that if you want to diet, use brown sugar instead of white sugar. But actually, the difference is not significant, and brown sugar still can cause the bad effect, same as white sugar, such as heart disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. Okay, that's all for question 1. So next. Lama lah.
So for the second question, do sugars in fruits?
Can I just interrupt?
Yes, Doctor.
Can I just
interrupt?
Okay, I think for the benefit of Dr. Zuna and Dr. Hazulin, actually we are is having a course now. Can we just conclude the part for the lecturers first, and then you can proceed with the questioning and answer? If we can get comments from Dr. Zuna and Dr. Hazulin, and then we can let off the lecturers.
Okay, I think for our part, we've actually just conclude just now before entering the Q&A session. So with that, I would like to open any comment. If there's any comment from Dr. Zunariah or Dr. Hazulin, we would like to welcome.
Can I start first, Dr. Hazulin?
Yes, of course.
Sure, Dr. Zunariah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, NURUL ARDANI, for inviting me to give my comments. First of all, congratulations to the presenters and Dr. NORSIDAH as well. I learned so much from your presentation, and now I know. I heard of Madeira cake. Now I know where it comes from. Okay, it's a nice cake. All right, I apologize if suddenly you hear noise or bang sounds from my house because it's actually under some repair. Okay, good. First of all, good to see that some of you seems like very natural in presenting, even though I know you are reading, but somehow it looks like it's a bit natural. Okay, congratulations for that. I think at least that's what I noticed. I don't really see that you are really reading from the text. I know there's a text, but it seems like you still maintain your good eye contact with the audience. Most of you seems very cool, relaxed during your presentation. And I think you had enough practicing and coaching from Dr. NORSIDAH, I assume. Okay, well done for that. Okay. Also, I have two questions. The first one, you talk about so many types of sugar. Which one actually the most poisonous? I said poisonous sugar. And if let's say we crave for sugar, sweet food, which one we should go for? Okay, that was the first one. What about the artificial sugar? Can we consume artificial sugar? Okay, and one more, sorry, ada satu lagi. One more, how can we train our younger generation to develop their taste buds so that they won't consume so much sugar like us? Okay, that's all for me. That's all my questions.
For the first question about the type of sugar that most harming us, right, Doctor?
Yes, correct.
And what type of sugar should we go for if we want to eat sugar?
Yeah, if you want to release the craving, yes, because somehow we like to have sweet food. Okay, which one should we choose?
And okay, so for the first one, I think the most dangerous sugar is the white sugar, because I think it contains the the highest amount of sugar, sucrose. And then if we want to satisfy our crave for sugar, I think we can go for the alternatives such as palm sugar. I think it is a good sugar because of it less glucose and less glycemic index. And we also can go with the natural sugar in fruits, in honey, in palm date, in tamar. Okay, so that is for the first question.
Okay. What about the artificial sugar? Can we go for that as well?
And for artificial sugar, I am not sure about that. I didn't read about that.
Doctor, can I add some?
Okay, sure.
For the artificial sugar, it is actually one of the alternative for a low calorie sweeteners, because low calorie sweeteners contain few to no calories but have a higher intensity of sweetness per gram than sweeteners with calories. For example, the fructose that I have explained before. Actually, studies that does not have been done yet because during 2018, there's an scientific advisory by the American Heart Association and American Diabetes Association noted that further research on the effects of low-calorie sweeteners, for example, the artificial sweeteners, on weight control, cardiometabolic risk factors, and risk of cardiovascular disease and other chronic disease is needed, meaning that there's no research done on artificial effects on health problem. But it is a good alternative for person that want to consume less sugar by consuming the artificial sugar. For example, aspartame and sucralose, or for plants, we can take a stevia glycosides and monk fruits. That is what I found for artificial sugar. Does that answer your question, Doctor?
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you.
So should I proceed after this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone. Thank you for the presenter, supervisor for giving me opportunity to join this session and keeping me awake this evening with all the scrumptious looking food and everything. Maybe I think Dr. ZUNARIAH already asked a question for you guys. Maybe for my part, I enjoy your session. Maybe I just have some sharing about what I've read. This is not because I read this, not because to give comment for your seminar. That's not my intention. Actually, I also looking for into alternative for sugar. As me myself, I have a very sweet tooth, so that's why I also digging something, some knowledge about this from what I've read. If I'm not mistaken, maybe you, the presenter, also have something to say about this. Like what I think NURUL said just now, that the synthetic sugar offers something, alternative for a low or almost zero calorie option for those who like to eat sweet things. But I think that the safest, if I'm not mistaken, the safest is stevia as compared to xylitol and everything, because the other synthetic is said to have like predisposed the users to carcinogenic and renal problem. I'm not sure. Any of you have come across this during your reading or anything?
No, Doctor, because they said research is needed. They have not done the research in the journal.
Still safe for me to consume, huh? Okay. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Congratulations to the supervisor and the presenters. And I wish you all Ramadan Kareem. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hazulin and Dr. Zunariah, for the wonderful comments, and for our supervisor, Dr. NORSIDAH. So allow us to continue with our Q&A session. I shall pass to
Dr. Hazulin and Dr. Zuna, if you wish to leave, I think it's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. NORSIDAH, and thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, you all proceed, yeah? I akan reduce the volume for me lah, but you all proceed tau.
All right, thank you, Doctor.
You have done very well. All of you have done very well. Thank you very much. Yeah, you just proceed. I attend another course. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, Doctor. So I pass back to Sister NABILA.
So we will proceed with the second question, which is, do sugars inputs can affect our health? This will be answered by Brother IZZUL.
Okay, for the second question, can sugar is in fruit affect our health? So for my answer, it depends on the people itself. If people with that doesn't have any critical disease, I think it doesn't affect any health. It doesn't give a negative effect for our health. Because I want to tell you, fruit and sweetened food, both of them contain fructose, and if there is an excessive amount of fructose, it can be harmful to our health. But for the fruit, it is difficult for us to get an excessive amount of fructose. I mean, even high sugar fruit such as mangoes or watermelon, that are known as a very sweet fruits, they still contain less fructose than sweetened fruit. So even eating whole fruit is impossible to consume enough fructose to cause harm to our body. But still, for the certain people, especially people with diabetes, they need to reduce the high sugar fruit intake to avoid the increase of blood sugar level in the body. I think that's for my answer. How it answer your question?
Thank you, Brother IZZUL. So we proceed to the third question. Is there any sunnah on how a Prophet Muhammad SAW consumes sweet or in cooking? So this will be answered by Sister Ardani. Welcome, Sister Ardani.
Thank you, Sister Ain, and thank you for the one who's asking this question. So, is there any sunnah on how Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, consume sweet or in cooking? So, if we look back on the history that has been presented by Brother DANISH, right, and Sister AFFISA, so there is not yet refined sugar back then during the Prophet lives, right? So how do our Prophet consume sweet? So we go back to my point by through consume honey, consume fruit such as date, and also it is also narrated in hadith Muslim. Aisyah, Sayyidatina Aisyah radhiyallahu anha said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam likes to eat sweet and honey. So this is how I choose to answer this question. Prophet Muhammad SAW consumes sweet by eating honey, dates, and also if I may add, because the question asks how Prophet Muhammad SAW consume. So for example, date, right? As we are consuming date nowadays, this month. So according to Sahih Muslim, chapter 5, book 23, I'm reading my notes, book 23 and number 4896. Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari reported that Allah's Messenger SAW prohibited the mixing of grapes and fresh dates and dry dates and fresh dates. So this hadith wanted to say that Prophet Muhammad prohibit us to mix eating dry dates and fresh dates. So let us try to do that sunnah in our iftar for today and afterwards and onwards. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Ardani. So for the fourth question, what about diet sodas or other drinks with low calorie sweetness? For example, the Pepsi black can with no calories. Is it a good choice? This has been answered by me when Dr. ZUNARIAH has asked the question about the artificial sweeteners, because in the Pepsi black can or in other low calorie sweetened beverages, they have an artificial sweeteners which is aspartame or sucralose. So it is a good choice for someone that want to reduce their sugar intake. So the next question is stevia is an alternative to sugar? So this will be answered by Brother DANISH.
Okay, thank you to Sister Ain. So actually from the Google form, there was 2 response that was asking this question. And I would like to try to cover both of them, like under the same question. So one of it was that how stevia can be better than sugar sedangkan the taste or level of sweetness dia sama je. Okay, so wait, I just realized my camera's not on. So stevia is actually better because it is considered to be non-nutritional, or to say that it has no calorie value. So for a diabetic patient who wants to reduce their sugar intake, then I would say stevia is like an option for them to do. And even for us, if we think that we are taking excessive amount of sugar in our life, then I also think that stevia is a good alternative for us to start to integrate in our daily use. But if you would like to use stevia due to the claims that stevia can help with hypertension, stevia can help with certain claims that they do, then I would say that would not be a good idea, because most of the research that we have right now on stevia, where like some say stevia is better because it helps with hypertension, and most of those studies is actually backed up or even supported by the stevia industry itself. So we kind of question the integrity of those studies in the first place. But something that we could not argue is that stevia in the end is a non-calorie sweetener. So if you're worried about your sugar intake or your calorie intake, then I would say yes, stevia is a good alternative to sugar. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Danish. So next we will proceed with our third session, which is Kahoot time. So I will invite Sister AFFISA to conduct this session.
We are so sorry because we left another 7 minutes before 4. So for the ones that have class, you can just join your class. Okay. Okay, this. Okay, this is the game pin. Only 10 question. Simple question. Okay. We wait for until 50 or 30. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. Okay. Okay. The game pin is 7926749. Owner Kahoot. I think when we look at this nickname, everything is about food today because of fasting. Okay, we have Khairul Aming. Do you post your recipe today, Khairul Aming? Another 1 minute. On 3:57, we will start. Okay, fast, quick, enter the game. Okay, so I think we can start now. Can we start now? Okay, let's start the game. So we have 10 questions. Okay, so the first question, sugar crystallization was first done by option what dynasty? Ooh. When the sugar is crystallized. Okay. The answer is Gupta dynasty. Okay, Khairul Nanas come first. Next. Okay, sugar was discovered in the year. This is mentioned by Brother Danish. The answer is 8000 BCE. Okay, so let's see. Say, okay, Kari Pak Nanas go down and Poki come first. Poki, Kari Pak Nanas, I'm going to make D. Shimon. Okay, what is the most abundant sugar in nature? Fructose, sucrose, glucose, galactose. Okay, what is the most abundant sugar? The answer is glucose. Okay, so next. Okay, Shimon go up. The Kari Pak Nanas and Poki go down. What is the lowest sweetness sugar? Lactose, glucose, maltose or sucrose? Lowest sweetness sugar. The answer is lactose. Okay. So next. Okay. Uyo, Shimon. Okay, next. What is the species of sugarcane that contributed 70% in white sugar production? Saccharum what? Saccharum barberi, Saccharum officinarum, Saccharum ravennae, edule. I mentioned this. I emphasize this. I hope you got it correct. Okay, 13. Only 13. Okay, so next. Okay, Shimon still on the top. Then Poki Kari Pak Nanas is going up. Acidification process in raw sugar is important. So what is the answer? To remove impurities in the raw sugar. Okay, so next. Okay, Shinwan still on the top. Okay, Poki, Izumi, Doja, Kimusli. Okay, 3 question more. Okay, this is multi-select question. What do Atkins diet and keto diet have in common? All fat, low carbohydrate, all protein, all carbohydrate, no low fat, no fructose. 3, 2, 1. So the answer is all fat, no low carbohydrate, no fructose. Terror lah Shimon ni. Kiboki, Izumi, Apoloko. How many grams of sodium contained in a can of Coca-Cola? Sodium. Okay, this is mentioned by Sister Ain. Same like we drinking pizza. Two, 1. Okay, the answer is 55 milligram sodium in Coca-Cola. Okay, next. Okay, she won come first until now. So the nine which of these fundamental elements are applicable to our topic for today? Adin, Al-Aq, Andamal, and Nas. Okay, which one? There is 2, right? Okay, so Al-Aq and Al-Nas. Okay, next. Oh, Shinwon go down. And Izumi come first. Poki, kari Nas, and Donut. And the last one, best alternative to replace white sugar. So this only one question answer. Which one? Okay, honey. Honey is the right answer. So we finish the quiz. So the podium. Okay, the third is Poki. Congratulations. Second is Shinwon. And the first is Izumi. Izumi. Okay, congratulations. Okay, to curry puff and donut too. Okay, congratulations to all and thank you for all for participation. And we continue with the closure by Brother Danish.
Okay, so I guess that will be the end of our seminar. I would like to sincerely thank everyone for being here up until the end. And sorry if we triggered you with the scrumptious looking images of food. So I hope it's not too late for us to wish you Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Hopefully our fasting this year will be accepted by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So I would like to special thanks to our supervisor, Dr. NURSIDAH, who have been a huge help and also a mentor to us since the past few weeks, guiding us for this seminar. And I would also thank Dr. Hazulin and also Dr. ZUNARIAH, if they're still here, for also spending your time despite having other classes that you have to attend to. So sincerely thank you for still being here. nonetheless. So before we officially bersurai, if for those who can turn on their camera, we would like to ask you guys to please turn on your camera so we could have a photo session.
Everyone else is seated. I feel like we should be some good boys. Let's sit down together. Wait, let's go take a quick peek down the hall, see where the teacher's at. Terry, teacher! Definitely gotta play some pranks on her. I gotta help him read, so yeah, I gotta sit next to yeah.
Wait, that's all? I can really see it. Like,
We're not allowed to sit together, bro.
okay. Okay. Boleh tengok the camera.
We gotta find a way to get I agree. I can get the bathroom pass. Get the bathroom pass. The bathroom, please. Yeah, he needs
Anyone else? No? Yes.
Can we go to the bathroom, please? Yeah, he needs to go. I'll just be his bathroom buddy. All right, I'll see you. Okay, thank you.
I guess we just take with whether it's on and the one that I can see. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Selamat buka.
Bye. Happy iftar.
On my way into school, I remember I saw a giant spider.